Thousands of miles away from Iraq and Syria, ISIS claims responsibility for a fatal attack in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, in a region of the Central African country experiencing an alarming Ebola epidemic. Now, this attack was carried out by the Allied Democratic Forces, a local paramilitary group that does have ties to ISIS. And then it was claimed yesterday by the self-proclaimed caliphate. Now, the attackers claim to have targeted Congolese military forces, but a local official told the media at least 13 civilians were also killed. Now, this comes as the leader of ISIS, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, recently resurfaced in a propaganda video after disappearing from public view since 2014. And even though the caliphate has lost practically all of its territory in Syria and Iraq, the group still claimed responsibility for and inspired the horrific Easter Sunday bombings in Sri Lanka 2 months ago. For more on this, I'm joined now by former Pentagon official Michael Maloof. Thank you so much for joining us, Michael.
Sure.
Now we're heading to the Congo to talk about ISIS, something that we thought that we didn't have to deal with again. They thought it was completely eliminated. That's what President Trump had said. But are they still growing in other areas that we're just unaware of?
Oh my gosh, yes. They've metastasized in 30 other countries.
30?
30.
Okay.
Principally Africa, East Asia, South Asia, and the episode in Sri Lanka was not by accident. What they're doing, and we're seeing it again now in Afghanistan, and they're still accumulating, by the way, in Iraq, even though the physical caliphate is gone.
Right.
So they become greater threats of insurgency as a consequence. For the United States anticipated this and has established for itself some 34 bases, if you will, throughout the 50 African countries, and they are primarily suppliers for special forces in anticipation that ISIS will link up with these people. And the way that they're doing it is by linking up with local groups that have expansive amounts of territory and weak governments that don't have any or limited access to those territories.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up weak, because is this thing new? Is this a new strategy of ISIS? Because we're looking at what's going on in Ebola. They literally just had, I think, the latest outbreak has killed 2,000 people have been killed with this Ebola outbreak. So it's already a weakened area. People are afraid to go in and help because of the Ebola outbreak, and now you're having this. Is this their new tactic, though, to expand their power and to take territory by going into these already weakened areas? Oh,
yeah. This is their strategy. And they're hitting areas also where they can control the population, principally at the water sources. Where you control the water, you control the population, and the water flows down, and it goes into these other African countries. And that's just one instance. But it's unfortunately, it's happening in the midst of this Ebola outbreak. You can't get the health workers in as a consequence, and this could inadvertently cause the spread of Ebola.
On that side, but what is ISIS's ultimate goal in going into these countries? And do they want more territory? Do they want more power? Do they want bodies? What do they want?
Probably all the above. They want control. They want to establish it. They want to spread the caliphate. They had to retreat, and through insurgency, they hope to recreate it. They started in Libya. They're moving on down, and we see them in greater amounts in Middle Africa, like in Nigeria, what have you, and then now on further south.
Well, that's ultimately, besides just controlling, obviously, the Ebola outbreak, we don't want that to get out. We want to control that. It's hell in that region.
Yes.
But should the U.S. be involved in anything else in this area right now?
Well, it's.
Is this our fight?
It could become our fight because of the spread of terrorism and the control in those areas, and we have interests in those areas, legitimate interests, and if it's run by a caliphate and it's under Sharia law, very strict Sharia law, it subjugates lots of people under very strict conditions, and it would be difficult, and it's all aimed against the West as well.
Well, I want to go from one hotbed to another hotbed real quick while we've got you here. We have a former IEA official has come out today and said Israel and the Gulf states need to actually be very worried about Iran's nuclear strength, saying they could actually have capabilities in 6 to 8 months. Do you agree with this assessment?
Well, we've been saying that for years. I mean, sure, it's going to require additional centrifuges, upgraded centrifuges. So far, Iran has been in compliance according to the IAEA.
Right.
And it would take a great deal of new centrifuges. Also, I would point out that because Iran is a member of the non-proliferation treaties, they have a right, even though Pompeo and others have said, we don't want them to have any. Israel doesn't want to have any. They have a legitimate right. Russia is going to be building new reactors there, and they've already built Bashir, and they're going to be having others.
So there's definitely some nuclear energy. There's some definitely nuclear activity going on.
To it.
Okay, well, real quick before I let you go, I have to ask you, though. He does say that basically President Trump got played in this deal because when he pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, that's exactly what the Iranians wanted if they wanted this capability. Do you think that that might have been kind of almost like reverse psychology in this case, that that's exactly what the Iranians wanted, was to get out of the Iran nuclear deal?
No, they got into it. They were adhering to it. It was the U.S. that pulled out of it because they didn't like the deal.
But now they can get centrifuges. They couldn't get that underneath the Iranian nuclear deal.
They could have some. Yeah, they could have some.
Now they can get much more advanced technology.
It was very low level. They had again. They could have a sufficient amount to fuel the reactors and for legitimate medical purposes.
Right. Well, it'll be interesting to see where this one goes.
Oh, this is not over.
This is definitely not over, and neither are our talks and conversations about it. Thank you, Michael, for joining us.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.